Hi everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and this is a video about 2020 in retrospect. So I just wanted to share some of my experiences and some of my favorites, not only deck-wise, but also share what workshops I did and how I kind of experienced this year. I was meaning to go live, but I guess it would be hard to tackle live chat and share this information with you, as it's probably quite personal in some way, and also maybe just quite a lot of it. So I hope you're going to enjoy this recap. I will try to keep it as short as possible, but I do have quite a lot of stuff that I would like to mention. So 2020 was a very a powerful year for everybody. For some people it was amazing. Some people blossomed in 2020. Some people crumbled and crashed. Yet I think everybody experienced this year as a really intense year, very shocking year, and a year that brought a lot of changes, and also that brought a lot of things to the surface, including Black Lives Matter, white people doing a lot of work around their own racism, the need to bring more equality and education as white people, for us to actually grow and to work with our own internalized trauma, and also a year that shows, and it's a precursor I think for many social changes to come, including financial systems, including political powers, and including social systems as well. So I think if I was to give an analog, I think we would be just sticking our head out of vagina. This was a year when we were squeezing through the eye of the needle, and 2021, as much as I hoped it's going to be a breath of fresh air, I think it's probably going to be a very strange year. Can be harder on some levels, because we will be starting dealing with consequences and prolonged still yet isolations and lockdowns, and I think it's going to shift at some point, but I think this is part of the social change that needs to happen. And I think the one big thing for this year, for 2021, would be for all the people to hold the vision of what we would like to see, because it's so easy to get lost, it's so easy to get depressed, it's so easy to just give up basically trying. And I feel like we have to try, right? We have to try if we want to see a different outcome, a different world. So let's start with what I wrote here. My first point for 2020 in retrospect was the pause. And I'm talking here of the first initial lockdown, and how collectively we've experienced the sacred pause, and how nature regained its power, how we saw that actually pausing can be creative. There was boom in Zoom workshops, in a lot of free stuff on internet, a lot of educational resources that popped out of nowhere. So that experience of sacred pause, that stop, was one of the things that this year taught me for sure. And I appreciate 2020 for that forced yet amazing experience of sacred pause. And I think in 2020 I started slowing down. In 2021, this is one of my main kind of invocations and prayers that I'm going to be singing and sending out there into the universe, to actually slow down, to take time to do things, to take time to connect with what I actually want to share, what I want to do, and maybe not do too much. Who knows? Let's see how that goes. But yeah, the pause in 2020 was kind of amazing. So the post stopped, right? The decks didn't come in for a long time. It was kind of like being, And this year, I think that was an important experience, to be reminded about priorities, to be reminded what's important, to be reminded of what each of us is made of, really. So when it comes to favorite decks, I've done this live with favorites of 2020 as a VR to Masha, but here I'm going to show you the favorite decks as readers, so the most used decks in 2020. And when it comes to reading, and you know, I read for people, and this is my main bread that I bring in and pay my bills, and so I chose decks that I used in a lot of readings. As you know, I change decks often, but the Rainbow Hat Tarot was definitely one of those decks that I used often, ongoing, in readings for other people. It's this kind of 70s vibe deck. It's pretty funky, very bold colors, very Rider-Waite-Smith, but with, you know, kind of fresh approach and fresh art. So I loved using this. It's pretty neutral deck, inclusive, just beautiful, kind of happy deck. Another one that I really loved using was the Source Energy Tarot by Kathleen Dale, and it's also kind of a bit unexpected deck. I wasn't sure if I'm going to like it so much, but I did. And it's Kathleen is the energetic kind of painter, so she paints when she tunes into energies of the image, and this deck is very intuitive when one reads with it, and I really I really enjoyed reading with this deck and using it in readings, because it provided me with really interesting outcome, and also pretty neutral, so that's important for me. Another one that I used quite a lot as well was Light Seers by Chris Ann, sorry. And I do have the Kickstarter edition, and it came out in 2019. I think the Kickstarter was 2019, but I think we received these decks in 2020. If I'm mistaken, maybe it was end of 2019, I can't remember anymore. But I love using this deck for younger readers, and I used it in, like, you know, those special that I offer sometimes to try out how it reads. And yeah, it's a great reader. So for anyone who likes a bit more modern decks, Light Seers is very, very cool. Another one that I really loved was also the Shimmering Veil Tarot. Xyla Conway is one of my favorite artists. I really love her and her creativity. And this deck reads also beautifully, especially when it comes to like elements and emotional reading, because this art kind of resonates really deeply on not only mental level, but very kind of intuitive, emotional level. So this deck reads really cool for me. And yeah, it's great in readings also to see, you know, where you might be needing to look at stuff. Another one that I think it's a great reader also is the Way Home Tarot by Baccara and Autumn Whitehurst. I love this deck. It's such a smart deck. It has a lot of simple yet deep imagery that goes also, you know, straight to the core of an archetype. I love the kind of chord cards because they can be used for anybody, really, any, you know, skin color, any body type. They show mostly what the chord cards should be showing, like the essence behind. The chord cards are not maybe so much always about people, but the archetypal energy that a person would carry with. So the page doesn't necessarily, or the king doesn't necessarily show always a male person, right? It shows someone who is in control of something, who has mastered something, and so on. So this one shows gender, but in a kind of interesting, more kind of broader way. So it's a really great reader, and I love using it for readings. Another one that I used to use a lot as well is the Ember and Aura Tarot by Jamie Richardson. This one, especially like the beginning of the year, I love this deck for its kind of very feminine, gentle approach, and also the readings it was giving me were really, really gentle. Maybe I haven't used it that often for client readings, but I've used it a lot for myself, and whenever I used it for client readings, it was also very spot on. So very sweet, sweet reader. And the last one that I would like to mention, even though I didn't have it for very long in 2020, but whenever I used it in readings for people, the Starseeker Tarot, it's also a great reader, especially when it comes to relationships, but just in general, intuitive deck, and very gentle and beautiful to just look at. So the Starseeker was also a great deck to use in readings. This Playful Heart Tarot was another one. I did mention it as such a great deck, and it's actually much smarter than just for, like, you know, inner child work. Wild Messengers, also mentioned in my live video, but this is a great deck, especially the book is just amazing. When it comes to like more oracle based, I always nearly use Lavish Earth Oracle in my readings. I use Forest of Precious Twigs and Wistar Oracle. They mixed up together, and you know, I love these decks. So they have amazing art and beautiful, like, kind of soulful writing in the backs. My favorite, one of my favorite oracles, Oracle of Initiation. So now I'm showing you the decks also that I add to my tarot readings, and the Rose Alchemy Oracle, use it very often as an addition to draw for a client, you know, what rose they resonate with, or what rose would like to kind of carry certain love codes back to the person. Also, a deck that I use very often in my readings is the Oracle of the Essences, which is the Essential Oil Oracle. And I also use a lot the Red Seeds Oracle by Linda Hill. My favorite two are the first and the third one to use. And there is few other mentions that I want to add. One of my favorite decks of 2020 is Folarcos Tarot, and I've done also a workshop, dream workshop with Carmen and Wasima in the beginning of 2020 with this deck, and with like how you can work with a dream that you don't quite understand but want to get deeper into it. And I actually love the spread, and I've just used it again recently, so I just wanted to mention it. The Story Medicine Tarot, also actually great readers, and especially the first one and the newest version, you know, the second version of the Story Medicine Tarot, also an amazing reader, but it's much slower, a little bit different to use maybe than, it's more like a healing deck, not so much, you know, tell me what's going to happen next week deck, but they amazing readers, and I've been using them heaps in 2020 for client readings as well. The Dream Dust Shamanic Tarot, I also mentioned this deck a lot, but I love it, and this is an abstract deck, and maybe not everybody's cup of tea. I think it's out of print now, so I think Sue is going to bring it back though, so you know, just look out for it. Also, in every nearly reading, I use the Yoni Oracle cards. I found them very healing, very beautiful, and sometimes I use this oracle, a Lemurian Starchild Oracle. I used it a lot for myself. Sometimes I use it in readings as well if I want to get a message from like star ancestors, you know, from like the spirit guides. It's a great deck to use for that, because it's created with all these kind of Lemurian vibes, and Atlantis, Lemuria, you know, Syrian, and so on, Arcturian vibes. And four more decks that I want to share with you. So the El Goliath Tarot, I love the first edition so much. The second edition is amazing too, but I guess I just love the El Goliath in that big version. And I wanted to share an experience from 2020. So when I went to Croatia in July, I saw the comet. So this card just totally reminds me of, you know, of that encounter with the comet. And this is in this deck, the Queen of Cups, the Mother of Crystals. So she's got these crystals on top, and I did have a very kind of powerful experience to see, to witness this comet. And I'm still kind of fine-tuning, you know, in-tuning what the sighting actually maybe meant to me. But somehow it's connected me also to my Weaver of the Year and to my ancestors and the work that I did this year with ancestors. So I cannot speak about 2020 without mentioning the Mysteries of Mary tarot deck. I also started 2020 with the visit to the Black Madonna of Częstochowa in Poland. So me and my friend, we jumped into the car on January 1st, and we went to visit, this is the gilded version of Mysteries of Mary, and we went to visit the Black Madonna of Częstochowa and also Black Madonna of Gidle, which is not far away from Częstochowa. So basically I started 2020 with a pilgrimage, and I thought I would be continuing my pilgrimage practice as a devotional practice this year, but we know how this year evolved, so I couldn't really, you know, do that because we couldn't travel. Another deck that I want to mention is Santos and Saints Oracle by Melissa Lucia, also beautiful and beautiful deck that, you know, I've used a lot, and it is playing some part of, yeah, that discovery and continuation and exploration and deepening my work with Divine Mother, with Mother Archetype, with Mother Mary, with Mary Magdalene, many different aspects and many different goddesses that belong to the goddess lineage in general, that Mary is a continuation of. And Walking with Mary started in January 2020 as well. So I always have, you know, all these books, like journals that I do, just write things in. So Walking with Mary started and finished 2020. Yeah, just 2020 became one of those years that maybe I haven't experienced this kind of boom, like this huge heart opening when it comes to Mary work, because I've done that since 2018, and in the beginning I couldn't think of anything else. It was like, I was kind of high on bliss. And obviously we develop our devotion, we develop our work with the feminine and masculine, so it's it changes every year, it's different. But 2020 started with the Black Madonna, and as we know, Hetien has nearly finished the work on the Black Madonna deck, and I think she had pre-orders open. I don't know if they're still available, but the Black Madonna deck is coming next year. I mean, this year at some point, April maybe or something. We'll see how it goes. So, but this is pretty amazing, Also, the deck that I used often and loved in 2020 was the deck of character, and this is like a card game, and it's really, really brilliant. I have to mention also the Mother Peace deck, Quaera Magicians and Archetypes by Wild Unknown, because these were the decks that I also used a lot. So as I mentioned, that was the kind of favorite readers that I used during 2020. When it comes to books, one of the most kind of beautiful one that I can show off is this tarot book by Taschen. It was sent to me for a review, but it's a great coffee table book, with a lot of amazing art, and also the text is very cool as well. So this is like a big mama of the book, so it's something that you don't maybe read from A to Z, but you keep going back to it, you know, so I like looking at the art. The other one of my favorite books was Wild Messenger's book, because I love this deck and the book is amazing. I think if not for this book, like, I probably wouldn't appreciate this deck so much. The book for Oracle of Initiation and the Healing Heart Tarot is actually two of the books that companion books that I keep going to and reach for very often. When it comes to like non-tarot related books, I read a lot. Not maybe from beginning to the end, but I picked different books and checked, you know, some writing of Thomas Merton. I've read a few books of Thich Nhat Hanh and listened to a few. I've read Anita Murani, Dying to Be Me, Mary Called Magdalene, Hood Feminism, Robin DiAngelo, The White Fragility, and also you want to speak about race. So quite a few books on, and my grandmother's hands, quite a few books on racism, also by Layla Saad. I've done the her kind of, you know, prompts, the challenge, but also Rachel Cargill and Layla Saad, similar kind of type of work. So I highly recommend checking those out. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I haven't read it before, so this year I read it. The Way of the Rose, beautiful, beautiful book. Read it a few times. I mean, kind of listened to it because I have it on Audible. Radiant Hat by Andrew Harvey, very beautiful. Entering the Castle by Caroline Myss. Courage to Confront Evil, also by her. So quite a few books that I listened to or read on, on my Kindle. And now when it comes to workshops, I have done quite a lot of studies actually in 2020. I'm just checking the time. So my favorite workshops. So what did I do? As I said, I started by visiting the Black Madonna of Częstochowa, and that was kind of telling, really, just to see in the perspective how the year evolved. And I guess also it felt like the Black Madonna came into the world and we had to deal with chaos, but also creativity and shifts and, you know, kind of evolutionary movements, really. But when it comes to workshop, I actually did my first Zoom workshop where I taught, and it was called Intuitive Tarot Workshop. It's actually available as a recording on my website, and I taught how to read an image, how to read intuitively, but yet still use tarot system as a structural backbone, you know, so not totally free flow, go and tell me what you see. That too is part of reading an image, but then how can we also use the tarot to support us and support somehow our message and what comes across. I also recorded another class on Tarot de Marseille, also available right now for a week. Is actually on sale for $33. So if anyone wants to, it's mostly geared towards beginners, and there's quite an extensive chunk of it on major arcana and how they connect it, and also on how to read minors and pip decks, pips in 2 different ways. So you can take a look at the description. So this was what I did, you know. I was hoping to do much more, but well, at least I did something. And now what I studied. So at the beginning, as I mentioned, Wasima and Carmen Sorrenti, they did like dreaming workshop. I did William Whitecloud. He was offering like a free course on creativity, which was actually really awesome. I studied with Ruby Mountain for a while, through Carni Zor, the astrologer. I've done the Inner Child with Susanna Conway, and that was actually really cute. We were, I'm still doing it because it takes a long time, but that was like a Inner Child diary that we were doing. So there were different spreads, and every day we pulled a card and did a page from the perspective of your child, like you as a child. You chose an inner child deck that you were using for this pulse, and I used the Rainbow Heart Tarot and the Playful Heart Tarot, the Rainbow Heart and the Playful Heart Tarot. And yeah, we used to have different stickers and stuff, and just pulling a card a day and doing, writing down perspective or the meaning of this card from the perspective of your inner child. So this is kind of my little journal. It's still, as I said, it still has spaces to go, but that was actually a big chunk of my time to do this. The course itself, it was geared towards beginners when it comes to tarot, so if you don't know anything at tarot, you can do it. It wasn't very deeply psychological, I would say, but it was kind of light-hearted, and the meditation that Susanna provided, it was meant to be more creative and fun, like the inner child would do it, rather than, if you expect a lot of psychological information, it wasn't there. So I've done this. I am still doing a dreaming workshop. So it started with the dream workshop, very short one, 3-hour one. Now I'm doing a 6-week one with a Polish woman called Natalia Miłuńska, and that's really wonderful. So I'm kind of feeling like I was leading myself into slowing down, into a bit more of a dream world time. And I think 2021, my word for 2021 is thrive. And yeah, I just would like to, I think, take it easy this year and see maybe what I can come up with when I take the sacred pause, actually take it. Then I did also the Living Ancestral connection class with Lara Veleda Vesta. It was a 4-week course on ancestral connection, and it finished on winter solstice, I think. I also have done a lot of, a few meetings with Maxine, and she has finished her ancestral kind of work and course, and I was her guinea pig. And actually what we've done together was pretty amazing for me, because I have connected with a spirit guide this year, and I have connected with one of my ancestors, and I only kind of connected the dots at the end of the year when I was changing my weaver. So this weaver, which I pulled for 2020, was sand, and it says here, old woman walks good. It had so many, it was the first time, I guess, when the weaver really spoke to me, and that's why I decided that I cannot pull a weaver a month. It's too often for me. I have one weaver for the whole year, and at the end of the year I can see how often actually that grandmother or that weaver came up for me as a support, or as a teacher, or as a challenge, So this old woman walks good, that this year my mother got sick, and she was really, she couldn't walk for a long time, but then she got better, so she is walking now, and she is not in pain anymore. But that took a long time, and she went to hospital for 3 months. We couldn't visit her because it was just beginning of COVID. So it was just really interesting. Through Maxine and my work, and through Lara's ancestral class as well, I connected to one of my very, very kind of ancient ancestors, and this would be, I didn't know in the beginning where she's from, but I think it came up in the end. I did connect it to an Australian grandmother through her singing and through this kind of voice. In the beginning I wasn't sure if she was like Hawaii. I just saw her sitting cross-legged, on the beach looking at the ocean. She was quite big woman, big body, brown skin with this wide nose. So I thought maybe Hawaii, or I thought maybe, Papua New Guinea, or anywhere there, or Australia. Because I have this personal connection to Australia, I thought in the end, when she started singing and drawing things with the stick on the sand, that she actually, kind of connects me to that land. And I've got so many synchronicities that happened, which I'm not going to go into because it's really personal, and I'm still developing this relationship. But this weaver, I kind of didn't think about it, and then when I wanted to pull the new weaver, I kind of pulled her out, and I thought wow, this is that grandmother, this is that grandmother from my visions, from my meditations, and she's holding the ball with rainbow serpent, you know, with that serpent energy. I don't know, it's so much more in my head when I connected all the dots, but it's really hard to explain it all. But the weaver energy this year was amazing, and I'm really attached to her, so it's hard to let her go. My new weaver for 2021 is Nomad. She's pretty cool too. She's much more maybe, you know, jump on my sleigh, dare to jump, and she's connected a bit more also to water, so, and to salmon, and to, you know, dogs that carry the sleigh, and to snow. And I kind of feel like, yeah, she will be asking me to be more courageous maybe. We'll see. I'm still developing definitely the relationship to my grandmother. And there were strange synchronicities, you know, when I heard words and then I put these words into Google and they came up as some language of, you know, certain Aboriginal clan, and it was just pretty amazing. So that was a big chunk of like this amazing period leading up to winter solstice. I also did 2 classes with Tarot Palooza, so I did like Sasha Graham class on shadow work, and also the Tarot Summit, which was interesting. And I've learned a lot from, you know, my friends here in Tarot community, from Queen Osset, from Havana, from Kim, from Panda. You know, there's a lot of Black people who shared their experiences, and I'm so glad that they did. We also organized together with Queen Osset, Tom Benjamin and Renee twice meeting in the community and talked about inclusivity, about you know, how Black people feel in the community and how we can do better and be more inclusive of not only Black people, but in general of people of other colors as well. And I think as community we learned a lot this year, and I hope we continue growing together. So that was pretty amazing, and I've learned a lot about, you know, my own internalized racism and how I can educate myself better to be a better person, you know, and carry on and encourage other people to do the same. So what else? I saw the comet, so yes, so this was amazing. And as I said, divine feminine work, I still keep deepening my devotional practices. I would like to do more pilgrimages, and just it's every year it's different. It's constantly changing, this work. And this year I felt a lot of pull towards like Christ and the divine masculine, and maybe not even that, but more about unifying and just bringing these energies together, you know, like this is a powerful card. I love this card, and it kind of represents a lot what I feel. These 2 snakes and that kind of fresh energy coming through. As you know, I spent a lot of time in Croatia and I love the nature and also the moon awareness and working with just dreams and moon. So there was April and Letty. They brought a lot of kind of moon talk into the community. Letty's inner queen oracle, also the awareness of the body and pleasure. The ancestral work with the story medicine and the sacred pause, and Jessica's seaweed, you know, kind of introduction to seaweed in the community, the alchemical heart and ancestors with Hetien, and a lot of us in the Temple of the Dove are doing rosary and prayers. It was all part of 2020, but I mostly, I think, appreciate that, yeah, this, you know, the spirit guide that appeared. And also and I didn't mention that I also studied deep play divination. Oh my god, that was so much fun, because as a part of the deep play, you know, we've done heaps of work with Melissa Lucia, not only with Oracle of Initiation, but also with Santos and Signs, with Virgins and Mary's Oracle, but a lot of divination with different weird stuff. And we created also our own inner child and inner teenager decks. And I love my deck. It's so funny. So for example, I'm going to pull one card for us just to finish off. And okay, so this is what came up. So old, new, listen, shh. And that's why I drew these big ears. And the text here says, I don't like to think before I speak. I like to be just as surprised as everyone else about what comes out of my mouth. So yeah, that's kind of guilty as charged. I sometimes, yeah, before I think about it, I already say it, and then I regret that I said it. So it happened a few times this year, and you know, that's always a lesson. So this is one of my personal lessons. Definitely slow down, right? Think before you speak. So two of my dear friends, Etienne and Melissa, yeah, I even publicly can say sorry, because I'm very particular and very precious about my two favorite decks ever, which is Oracle of Initiation and Mysteries of Mary Tarot. So when I received the new versions, I'm constantly, you know, searching for the tiniest little imperfections, and like, because I want them to be so perfect. And I guess yeah, I was a bit of a harsh critic to my two really beautiful friends, and so I have to learn how to, even if I have something to say which might be an important constructive criticism, to actually maybe take a breath, think about it, because then I change my mind and I kind of take time to sit with something, and I like it much more than I thought. You know, it's, yeah, it was a good lesson. So I would love to hear kind of your 2020 in retrospect. Just share with us what you've learned, what you know, what you brought to the fore. I also connected with many amazing people. I did some artwork, you know, some painted stones, and I thought, like, this is what I'm going to also do, like paint maybe little altars. I got a couple of new skulls on the 2020, the special 2020 skulls that Ivo created, and I got this one this year as well, which to me is like a mixture of, you know, kind of Archangel Michael and maybe Mary Magdalene. I don't know, it didn't share the name yet. And yeah, the altars on the stones, that's something that I might be doing as well. And this is, I think I didn't make too many ones this year. I've done some, but this is an old one that I did, and this is also connected to my grandmother. So that's an old one that I did old time ago, a long time ago. This is a crystal that I bought in Australia at some point, that all kind of fits together really nicely. That's not, you know, attached forever, but yeah, it came together in the right time. And the one thing that I'm going to finish with is that tiny little turtle house that we found with Tomek in Croatia, and that was also like such a animal spirit, you know, sign to slow down, to take it easy, not to push. So that's me this year. That's 2020 in retrospect. I hope you enjoyed it and that it wasn't too long, but yeah, I wish you all the best for 2021, and soon I'm going to do maybe like a little recap of what 2021 brings to us astrologically, and I hope we make it a good year. You know, it might be a tough year, but whenever we have that fresh energy, we have to root it also, and we have to ground it. So this is my card for January. It's from Folarkos Tarot, and can you see those ladybirds, ladybugs on the Empress? I just looked through my dream journal and I found a dream from 2013, so 7 years ago, that I had a dream about colony of ladybirds, and I used one of those spreads from Carmen Sorrenti's workshop and whatever I learn now about the dreaming to work on a dream from 2013, you know, so somehow I feel like I'm completing a cycle. So it's an interesting time for me, and I like to take it slower now, so that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, all the magical synchronicities, I love it. Thanks for watching. Bye.